Journeys ahead. More than meets the eye. An unofficial crossover. Chapter 2. Robots in Disguise. Written and narrated by T.S. ProArt.
My name is Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. What's left of them?
Optimus greeted everyone as he slowly took a kneel and gruffed out a pained hack. Autobots? Void asked as the others behind him slowly stood by his side. What's left? You said something about a war. What happened to you guys? Why are you here? Jida questioned with a reaching Jane as Optimus did his best to stay upright.
We are here by chance. This was the furthest planet we could reach with possible resources in order to protect the Allspark from our enemies, the Decepticons.
Optimus explained as his Autobots all reapproached back into the light. Allspark? What? Vivian asked as her internal frost began to spin with curiosity and nervousness. It's a long story. Sorry for giving you guys a scare, by the way. The name's B-127, but my friends here call me Bumblebee. The little scout greeted as he approached with a smile and set of hands to his hips. And no more flashbangs. Pretty please? The robot then asked with a little chuckle. I'm RC. Sorry for my hostility. Just worried you hurt my little guy. The pink Autobot apologized as she wrapped her arm around Bumblebee and gave him a nookie, leaving the small scout to chuckle. And I'm Wheeljack, Prime's right hand and skillful mechanic. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm personally quite gifted in my craft. Wheeljack greeted as he crossed his arms and then leaned against a tree. And I'm Jazz. Pretty cool to meet some aliens. The Autobot with a visor greeted last, leaving Jida tilting her head in curiosity. Wait, your name's Jazz? Like, the music? She asked. Yeah, got a my thing, little lady. That instrument on your back? Jazz asked as he pointed to Jida's orange guitar. Oh, yes, it is. She said back with a smirk, leaving Void to approach with concerned eyes. Optimus, could you give us some insight on this Allspark war Decepticons? We're all still a little lost and, well... Void inquired as he looked back, seeing the nervous and confused stares of everyone behind him. We're not fully certain on whether or not we can trust you guys. You just crashed into our planet and started rambling about this stuff. You know? Void stated as he winced upon the large Autobot. Without saying a word, Optimus nodded his head, raised his right hand up, clicking the side of his antenna, and sending out a blue beam from his eyes to project an image around them all. Holograms of large metal towers, cities, and environments all ballooned from Prime's projection. Robotic animals, clear skies, and even images of robots. Tons of them living peacefully within what was day-to-day life.
Our planet, Cybertron. It was once a beautiful utopia, a world where no energon was shed. It was a civilized age, till the leaders of our world began to grow corrupt.
Optimus explained as the imagery showed the outline of council members within a futuristic dome setting.
This corruption led to an inequality among our masses, forewarning a dark future, one of forced labor, broken bonds, and so many unfathomable prospects.
Prime went on as the image shifted to what looked to have been a gladiatorial arena.
Then, one day, one stood against the hierarchy of power, an old friend who taught and inspired me.
Prime revealed as the image of Megatron emerged before them all.
My once brother-in-arms, Megatronus.
Looking up at the large, bucket-headed, cannon-wielding robot, everyone felt a wave of awe and unease wash over them. His red eyes, battle-scarred body, and symbol over his chest spilled bad news about his character. But Optimus continued on.
Megatronus vowed to challenge Cybertron's leadership and demanded that all Cybertronians would be treated equally. This gladiatorial warrior, now turned revolutionary, began to amass a large following.
Optimus went on as he projected images of several other Decepticons, such as the likes of Soundwave and Shockwave.
During this time, I had joined Megatronus' path for peace and freedom. He became my mentor, my friend. As Megatronus leaned more into politics, he soon reverted his name to a more stern and imposing tone. Megatron.
Prime continued with a look of disgust and sorrow in his eyes, while Void and the rest listened on intently, watching as the images of a younger Optimus and Megatron went on by.
Soon enough, Megatron approached before our High Council to propose his vision of Cybertron. And it was here where my friend revealed his true colors.
Reaching up, Optimus clutched his stomach wound again and coughed, but continued on with his tale.
He proclaimed to overthrow the old guard and caste system with force, peace through tyranny, demanded himself to be fit for what we call a prime.
Optimus said as he opened his chest and revealed a glowing blue item within it, one surrounded by an orange casing and metal handlebars of some kind.
As Megatronus went on, I couldn't believe his words. I interjected with disbelief and began to speak what I believed he had taught down to me. In my optics, freedom was and still is everyone's right, no matter how big or small the soul is. I believe that our world and others outside of it would only find true peace until all are one.
Prime expressed with a hint of sadness in his voice, while the item in his chest continued to glow beautifully.
The minds and imagery of the council were moved by my words to my own surprise. Instead of Megatron, they saw me as the one most fit for a prime. But that honor could only be truly achieved by earning the matrix of leadership.
Raising his blue hand up, Optimus tapped the item in his chest, referring it to as the matrix itself.
However, this act of mine, my choice to speak, if I had known the consequences it would have led to, I am unsure it would have made for a better future, or a worse one if I hadn't stepped in.
Stated the leader of the Autobots, as a hologram turned into a burning city of gunfire, shouting, and screaming.
After this event, Megatron severed all his ties with me and the Council, and chose to wage war upon those who opposed him and his followers, which he named the Decepticons.
With this, the image changed to a burning propaganda flag, one that held the Decepticons' insignia, labeled with the words, "Peace through tyranny. All hail Megatron."
The war had poisoned our planet to its core, killed many. Because of this change, I traveled to our planet's center in hopes to reverse its effects, only to be greeted by the planet itself, Primus, where he bestowed the Matrix upon me. From that day forwards, I have led my side, the Autobots, through Megatron's endless battle, leading us to where we are now.
Prime finished before opening his chest further and revealing the Allspark inside.
As our planet reached its end, Megatron and his followers set their sights upon the Allspark, in hopes to use its power to terraform worlds into a brand new empire. With this kind of power, he could achieve universal domination. Knowing what had to be done, me and my Autobots took the Allspark and have now been scattered across the cosmos, in hopes to thwart Megatron for good. Ugh.
Prime finished before falling on his hands and knees, causing the Allspark to stumble out of his chest.
Optimus!
The Autobots said, as they and everyone on Void's side approached with worried steps. As they did, Void gazed down upon the Allspark that looked to be the size of a beach ball. Carefully reaching down, he picked up the item and gently held it before staring back upon Optimus. "Oh man, he's really hurt," Elijah said as he tried to help Optimus stand back up. "Joby, think you could help him out?" Jay questioned as Jida, Pofnu, Vivian, and Florence attempted to help Prime up with the Autobots. Nodding her head, the yellow striped spark pressed her hands of light upon Optimus's arm and sent a wave of matter through, however, finding nothing to be healing. I can't! He's all metal! There's nothing I can do here!" Joby nervously exclaimed as the Autobots rested Prime against a tree.
"I will need manual repairs if I am to move along."
Optimus groaned, leaving them all to just stare in a nervous state. "Knock, you still have your old keys to the city, right? Can you think of anywhere we can take him?" Void asked, leaving the mechanic to scratch his chin. There's an old junkyard site a ways off from my workshop. Surely it's gotta have something we can use," the mechanic stated, getting Jaya the turn. "Oh, good. But there's one little problem," she stated while holding Jane close. "How are we going to escort 5 massive robots with one who can barely even walk without getting noticed? You guys know how tight the city is now with these kinds of things. If anyone sees them, they'll be taken out or whisked away," Jida expressed with concern, leaving Wheeljack to speak.
"Great. Looks like we're gonna have to be robots in disguise then. Good to know,"
the robot mechanic said as he ignited a blowtorch to Optimus' side. "You guys have transport machines on this planet, right?" RC then asked as she squatted down to the group. "Transport machines? You mean vehicles?" Florence asked. "Yeah. Do you guys know where some are at? We Cybertronians have a neat little trick up our sleeves to help avoid detection," Bumblebee said as he tapped his left shoulder. "You're not talking about hijacking vehicles, are you?" Cod asked with a raised, or rather lowered eyebrow. "Nope. Even better," Jazz said as Wheeljack stood back to the group, with Optimus looking to fall asleep. "There's a parking lot close by. You can follow me," Jay said with a little hop and run. "Jay!" Jida called as RC stood back up. "I like this little guy's style. Straight to the point," she said before following after with heavy footfalls. "We'll be right back, Prime," Jazz said as him, Bumblebee, and Wheeljack followed after. "You guys go on ahead. Me and Cot will stay here with Optimus. See if there's anything we can take note of," Nox stated as both him and Cot turned to aid Prime. With this, Void gently held the Allspark close, and then reapproached Optimus, setting it down by his side and tapping his foot. "Hey, you dropped this," he said, leaving the big bot to reach down, pick up the Allspark, and gently place it back within his chest.
"Thank you, Void Novason,"
Optimus thanked, as Void nodded, and then decided to follow Jay. With this, the others turned as well, and followed in tow, wondering just as what Bumblebee meant about trick up their sleeves. Hurdling a fence, Jay alongside the Autobots all landed into a dim parking lot, where vehicles of all types rested in between parking spaces. Following behind them, Void and the others were in hot pursuit before they too landed upon the black, yellow painted cement. "Oh, look at all the pretty colors," RC said as the robots all began to fan out and look upon the cars. "Hey, you guys aren't going to be doing anything stupid with these vehicles, right? They aren't yours," Pofnu asked as she fluffed her tails out with a small red pulse.
"Don't worry, little dog thing. It'll be as though we were never here,"
Wheeljack called as he turned his sights and locked his optics upon a slick, smooth-back vehicle called a 20XX Stallion. "Care to elaborate this trick of yours, then?" Jida asked as everyone turned their sights upon Jazz, who was eyeing down a rounded yet slick vehicle called a Smooth Sailor 2022 model.
"Here, let me show you,"
Jazz said as a blue holographic beam shot out of his visor eye and scanned over the vehicle to everyone's surprise. After this, the beam ceased, leaving Jazz to turn and smirk.
You see, we Cybertronians have a neat little thing we like to call...
Spinning around, Jazz compressed himself and shifted downwards and transformed into a replica of the vehicle. However, now sporting his natural light dark blue and red color palette.
Transformation!
Jazz exclaimed before honking his horn. Whoa! Both Jay and Florence exclaimed with smiles, while everyone else stared in complete astonishment. Whoa, what the hell? You guys can transform? Joby asked, as both her and Elijah held onto each other's hands.
Yes, ma'am. Check it.
Bulby stated before he too transformed, having taken the form of a small mini-vehicle by the name of an Aurora City Roadbug, completed with a white racing stripe down the side of its right half. It's a natural function for us. It's how we travel and get around. Plus, I dig these Earth machines. They're so cool! RC exclaimed as she too scanned and transformed into a vehicle, one by the name of a Leo de Sanrico Cruiser, a topless muscle car with a pair of fuzzy dice dangling from its mirror.
In some regions of the universe, we're just called the Cybertronians, but in others...
Wheeljack stated as he then transformed into his vehicle mode, with an added trailer half from a nearby truck.
They call us Transformers. Kinda catchy, right?
Wheeljack revealed, leaving everyone to smile and slightly chuckle. Incredible! Void said with amazement as him, Jida, and the others all walked around the Autobots' forms, who opened their doors and gestured for them to hop inside. Your tech kinda reminds me of my own. Granted, I don't necessarily transform in the cars, but I can do this. Void said as he contoured his arm into his blaster modes.
Whoa, nice. Wait, is that a form of bioelectricity I smell? How'd you get that?
Wheeljack asked as both Jay and Florence hopped inside RC, looking completely astonished as to what they were seeing. Dude, you guys are so cool! Jay shouted as RC wrapped seatbelts around the two of them. Aw, shucks. You're too kind. The pink bot thanked as she honked her horn in glee. That's a long story, Jackie. Void replied to Wheeljack as Jida approached Jazz with gentle steps. Man, I've always wanted one of these cars, but I've never needed one. I have abilities that are a little... well... she said, before warping both herself and Jane to the other side in orange flares.
Well, today's your lucky day. That is, if you wish to hop in.
Jazz asked as he opened his door and began to play music.
Whoa! You Earthlings made this?
He asked to the music, as Jida gently sat inside with Jane upon her lap. Oh yes, this is a song from one of my favorite artists, Rebecca Freakshow. She's been a pop star since I was a little girl. The musician said, as Void turned and smiled upon the two of them.
So I take it that this trailer's for the big guy?
Pofnu asked, as both her and Vivian approached, while Joby and Elijah took a seat within Bumblebee.
Yep. Prime is definitely too damaged to transform on his own. So as long as you guys lead the way, we'll be carrying him upon this thing here.
Wheeljack explained as the trailer slab behind him sat as a long metal extension to his alt mode. Wait, we're just gonna carry a giant robot in the open? How will we even get around without getting spotted? Vivian questioned, as Void turned his head and eyed down a nearby forgotten tent tarp, a large one that had been used for what looked to have been a college party. This had been evident by school flyers and beer bottles along the ground. There was even someone passed out on a bench, snoring the night away. I think I may have an idea on that front, the spark stated, as he smirked with a small electric buzz flashing in his eyes. With the moon now shining above in the center of the sky, Nock and Cott led the way in their car, with the Autobots rolling out behind them. Being the first behind the mechanic's van was Bumblebee, with Joby, Elijah, and Pofnu seated within him, still looking taken aback by the night's events. After them drove Jazz with Jida, Jane, and Vivian inside, listening to gentle tunes that left the baby giggling. Following after went RC, carrying both Jay and Florence, with Wheeljack soon after. Sitting upon the trailer, Optimus rested beside Void, having the forgotten tent tarp covering his massive body. Since it was nighttime and upon the back roads for the most part, nobody was really around, outside of the nearby city of Aurora that stretched up to the sky in glimmering neon lights. Peeking out from this tarp, the injured Optimus gazed upon the city, with its lights reflecting off his blue optics. Noticing this, Void, who was sitting beside the Autobot's leg, turned his head and asked, "You alright?" Blinking and then looking back down, Prime, who had been resting his hands on his knees, tapped them and returned his sights back upon Void, with a sorrowful stare.
I am. It's just so quiet.
Prime replied, leaving Void rather silent in thought. How long has the war raged, if you don't mind me asking? The Spark inquired as he transformed his hand into a blowtorch and began to do what he could in that moment, to repair Prime's shattered leg.
Far too long.
Prime replied as he gently scooted his leg out more for Void to work.
It has been ages since I've seen a night as calm as this.
Looking up and then pressing his hand against Prime's leaking leg wounds, the Spark slowly tried to heal him, but the Cybertronian's metal was unlike his own cyborg body, needing something more robust than magical. I'm really sorry to hear that. This is Aurora, if you're curious. Our home city. The place me and the others vowed to protect. It's more like the whole planet at this point. Void replied as he deployed his battle mask.
You and your family guard this world?
Prime asked, as the Spark sat across from the bot, looking the rest. Yeah. Long story short, me and Jida met after I tracked an evil entity to this world. We got to know one another, and a lot of shenanigans ensued, leading us to become the guardians of our home. To be honest, you and your crew aren't actually as crazy compared to what we've seen before, although you still gave us a scare. Void explained, leaving Optimus to gently chuckle.
Apologies for that. They've been a little on edge since we escaped Megatron's wrath.
Prime apologized as he then focused upon the stars. Hey, it's all good. You don't need to apologize. We don't really take something like that to heart. Void assured, while Optimus continued to stare at the cosmos in wonder. Prime? The Spark asked again.
This world. I hear no war. I sense no rage, no sorrow, no loss. I hear laughter, joy, and so much more.
Prime went on as he turned his sights towards the city.
It reminds me of how Cybertron used to be. Just makes me realize just how long I have missed it.
Optimus went on, leaving Void to hold his hands together and nod. I lost my home too. It was a different place, a different realm. Monsters fell from the sky and I was one of the last few to survive. So I understand exactly what you mean. Longing for home, that is. Void brought up, getting Optimus to slowly look back at the Spark.
My sincerest condolences, Void. I take it that you are a warrior. You are armed, yes?
Prime questioned, leaving Void to nod back and activate his right arm blade and left cannon. I prefer the term protector, but I come from a race called Sparks. We were born to protect the Omniverse from danger. However, they died out long ago. But the weapons carry over. We're cyborgs, basically. Void did his best to explain, leaving Optimus to nod once more in silence. So, I'm curious about something. Can you guys turn into other things besides cars and, I would assume, planes and other types of vehicles? Void asked, getting Optimus to gently chuckle again.
Leave those questions for Wheeljack.
Prime replied, as he glanced over his shoulder to the Autobot carrying them. But aren't you their leader? Shouldn't you... Void began the question back before being cut off.
I prefer literature over science, my friend. I was once a librarian clerk, you know.
Up front, both Jay and Florence smiled and felt the city night wind hit their faces. To this, Florence sat upright, leaned to her side, let her hair and ears flow within the cool wind. Man, what a night. Your name's RC, correct? Jay asked, as he eyed the vehicle's radio station, seeing a glowing pink Autobot insignia activate within its touchscreen. Yep. And you two are... RC inquired, leaving Jay to smile and greet the Autobot. I'm Jay Voidson, and this is Florence Reyes. The little spark introduced, while pointing his thumb towards his girlfriend. Oh, nice to put a name to the faces. Again, I'm really sorry about pointing a gun at you guys. I was just worried about B is all. RC expressed, as the two teens eyed the small bug ahead. No worries. I can understand the urge to protect those you care about. Isn't that right, JB? Florence asked with a lean back in and smirk, but left the spark raising an eyebrow. JB? He questioned. You know, Jay and Baby put together? Too soon or too corny? The Lavenwolf questioned with an awkward stare. I'll think about it. The spark said back with a smile, leaving RC to speak up. Aw, you two remind me of me and B before the war. Cherish your younger years, guys. They're the most vital in a relationship. The Autobot stated as her radio insignia winked with a pixelated heart appearing outwards. So, do you guys plan to stay on Earth, or... Jida asked as she cradled a now sleeping Jane within her arms. Oh no, Earth is just a rendezvous point for us. Once Prime is all repaired, we'll be signaling for our comrades to join up and get back out to space. It'll be as though we were never here, I assure you. Jazz elaborated while Vivian stared out the window towards the city. Man. Sorry, this is all so wild. Like, giant alien robots that can turn the cars? In retrospect, it's nothing that crazy for us, it's just really unexpected for the night. The Frosty Spark stated, as he brushed down her green and pink cloak. Also, I'm sorry if this sounds weird, but are you comfortable with us, you know, being inside you? Void's sister questioned, getting Jaya the turn. Vivian, she said, holding her baby close. I'm just asking. Come on, you were thinking it too. To this, Jazz held his tongue for a moment until asking, Why are you two so freaked? We Cybertronians hitch rides in one another all the time. You guys don't do stuff like that? To this, Vivian bit the inside of her cheek and turned back forwards in an awkward and silent manner. Never mind, she said, as they all continued down the road. Resting within a restaurant late into the night, a group of four who had all worked for Aurora's news network system all sat around and ate what were ultimately dry fries after a long day at work. The first was Winona Specs, a field reporter who was very charismatic and spry in her nature. She had blonde hair, gentle pink skin, glasses, and even a beautiful ruby red coat going over her body. Although looking dapper, this field reporter had been feeling kinda down due to the lack of solid stories she could report on, leaving things a bit rocky back at the news station. If there was nothing good to report, no real good pay, or more importantly, adventure in her eyes. Beside her was what one would call a partner in crime, a person who was of the same race of Tuckers, by the name of Andy Helm. They had light green skin, clover-colored tip-dyed hair, a brown A&N cap, and the most basic flannel attire one could imagine. Andy wasn't one to show emotions as often as their crew, being quiet and introverted by nature. Their role was the cameraman, preferring to stay behind the lenses as opposed to in front of it. Across from them sat a soul of the same type as Cott, a pretty turquoise, upside-down, floating-headed being that had the sweetest face one could imagine. She wore a brown dress donned in a cookie-colored skirt with an added pearl necklace around her, well, stump, per se. Her name was Cece Gray, the weather analyst for A&N. Cece was soft-spoken and more on the timid side, an overthinker, as one would say. Find security in having a plan. She was like Void in a way, follows her heart more than her head. And then there was the last of this small crew, Francine Rickdom. This woman was donned in a stylized business suit of blues and tans. Her skin was pink like Winona, but had flat, combed, dark red hair covering her eyes and being pulled back into a bun. Francine was the group's anchor woman, a very struggling to work with kind of anchor woman. Due to her upbringing in the once wealthier side of Aurora, she's vain and mostly looks out for herself, holding very little concern for others. That is, unless something poses a threat to her career, or her reputation, or maybe just her hair. She could care less, but minus that, she was an important puzzle piece, leaving things tense every so often. I can't believe it's almost been a straight year of nothing! No crazy breakouts, no monsters coming out of the ocean. All we got nowadays is basic traffic reports and how far that fat penguin at the zoo got moving from his rock. Winona groaned while leaning back in her seat and throwing a fry into her mouth. Hey, there's something to be had with that report. Penguins are adorable. I'm sure it'll bring in some kind of attention. You gotta keep your head up. Cece said with a little smile as Francine leaned back and kicked her legs up and crossed them atop the table. Now crossing her arms behind her head, the grown adult brat groaned and looked up at the ceiling. Hate to break it to you, Sunshine, but nobody cares about penguins. The people of the city could give a lack of shit when it comes to those little fuzzy smelly freaks. To this, Cece winced and scooted away, leaning more so to the window at their booth side. Francine, language! We're in a public area. The upside-down being stated as she set her sights upon the only other guy in the restaurant, a sad thorn cashier that had heavy bags underneath golden, crossed eyes. No, Cece, she's right. It's like after the glitch attack, nothing outside of that crack in the sky has really occurred. After that, it's just been nothing. Winona replied as she rested the side of her head on her hand and bent arm. Nobody really tunes in unless it's something crazy. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for going out on the simple things, but it's like everyone expects more from us. We can't just report how many teeth Shallow lost again 4 times in a row, you know? Winona went on as Andy rested their head within a set of crossed arms on their table. You know, as much as I'm all for getting a decent pay, I would be lying if I said that I didn't prefer what we have now. The camera operator said before sitting back upright in a groggy manner. Within the span of only a few years, this city was thrashed aside and tossed about. Would I like more viewership? Of course. It's our jobs. Do I like risking my life or wishing upon another chaotic occurrence? Not necessarily. Andy explained, leaving Winona the wince and slight worry. Andy, that's not what I was trying to say. She said, getting her friend to turn with her tired eyes. I know, Winona. I know. You're just worried about the future of our careers, and I get that. I'm just saying that this line of work is more in line with what we all signed up for in the beginning. Just simple reports. With that, I think we should try and make the most of it. Andy finished before resting their head back down. To this, Cece reached over the table and adjusted the hat upon Andy's head, moving the bill of its front to conceal the light from their eyes. Yeah, I agree. It may not be the most exciting thing in the world, but so long as we're together in the end, that's all that matters. Cece exclaimed in a happy attitude, leaving Winona to smile and Francine to roll her eyes behind her hair. We'll figure it out. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Winona mumbled as she adjusted the glasses upon her face. Gotta be more stuff to cover than just penguins and roadwork in the city. Oh, maybe if we encounter the Novusons again, we could ask for an exclusive interview. The field reporter went on, getting Cece the giggle. That orb-headed hunk is always on your mind, isn't he? She cackled, getting Winona to snap her head. Duh! He and his family are the heroes of our city. Plus, I'm fairly certain they tune into our reports. You ever notice how soon after we broadcast something dangerous, one of them shows up to save the day? I'd personally say that we're a part of the crew. Winona stated in an obviously joking manner that left Cece giggling again and Andy the crack with a tiny smile. Pfft, like that would ever happen. Void Novason, Jida Woods, Jay Voigtson, Winona Specs? Come on now, that doesn't roll off right. You really think that... Wait a second. Did you just call Void a hunk? Francine spoke up, leaving Cece to give a tiny smirk and shrug. He's just really cool, she whispered, getting Winona the giggle and Andy the scoff in a small laughing gruff. As these words were shared, a set of vehicles passed by the window. A van, a yellow buggy, a blue and red smooth sailor, a Leo cruiser, and then a stallion carrying a trailer with a big tarp over it, getting everyone to turn. Oh, a Leo de San Rico cruiser! My dad used to have one of those. Cece said with a set of small claps, while Winona and Andy raised an eyebrow. That's one strong stallion to carry such a heavy load. Wonder what that was. The field reporter said, as the vehicles all turned down a left side road and disappeared into the night.